My best friend and I married into the royal family after time traveling together. She married the gentle and refined fourth prince. I married the dashing and heroic fifth prince. Both of them were idle princes, so my bestie and I happily became sweet sisters-in-law and leisurely princesses. Who would have thought the second and third princes would fight to the death, and the crown prince would perish too, with only these two brothers left as heirs to the throne? Isn't it inevitable they'll fight to the death? Terrified, my bestie and I both fled. We're best friends, not bitter rivals. Unexpectedly, I ran into the imperial concubine mother-in-law during my escape. Covering her face, she wailed, "I don't want to be the Empress Dowager either." Our two good sons, one promised to make me a consort dowager and send me out of the palace, the other was going to find me a male companion. Who knew all three of us would be caught before we could crawl out of the dog hole? Turning back, I saw the fourth prince's jade-like face darken like the bottom of a pot, while my husband the fifth prince's furious pectoral muscles seemed ready to burst through his robes. The emperor father-in-law looked shabby in his dragon robe, missing 2 eastern pearls and 5 golden threads. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful stories every day. Now the story begins. At the royal birthday banquet, my best friend Su Yun was whispering gossip next to me. Our emperor father-in-law is just 40, prime age for ambition. Surely not too soon. Hard to say. Most emperors in history barely lived past 40. Who knows if our husbands might start fighting to the death for that throne tomorrow. I can't imagine Xiao Ju fighting for power. He'd probably just splash ink on your husband's face. I rolled my eyes at the flashy, unfaded pattern on her wrist. Don't mix up your marital games with such serious matters. Su Yun, who'd been a liberal arts student before transmigrating, knew that the fourth prince Xiao Ju privately composed poetry and indulged in romantic pursuits. She had married him cheerfully. Occasionally, I'd see her stained with paint and reeking of alcohol, to which she'd laugh awkwardly and explain, gambling with books, spilling wine, reciting poetry, and painting. Little did I know how scandalously yellow the entire beauty drunk among golden chrysanthemums painting on her body was. You scholars really know how to have fun. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught sight of my energetic husband bustling around toasting guests and couldn't help but sigh. I can't even imagine Xiao Yi seizing the throne. He'd be more suited to swinging a cleaver and grunting while butchering pigs. Su Yun rolled her eyes in response, a rough-and-tumble male lead. Living vicariously through him again, are we? 9 out of 10 videos I watched before transmigrating featured brawny, muscular men, with the occasional slender and lean type as a palate cleanser. Upon learning that the fifth prince, Xiao Yi, stood 8 feet tall with an imposing presence, I happily married him. On our wedding night, I leisurely undressed him, thoroughly satisfied as I felt the firm yet supple swell of his muscles beneath my fingers. But as they say, too much of a good thing can be overwhelming. That night's excess left me sore and exhausted. Sleeping well past dawn, Su Yun, who came to invite me to pay respects and express gratitude, was exasperated at my lack of discipline, pointing at the red marks all over my body, lost in the throes of passion, oblivious to heaven and earth, and the scoundrel's golden belt is still hanging on you. This is just how we trashy novel readers are. Su Yun and I sighed in unison, both reluctant to part with such carefree and joyous days. But the second and third princes had fought to their deaths, and the frail crown prince had also passed away, leaving only these 2 brothers as possible successors. Even the most indifferent person, faced with power within easy reach, couldn't possibly still cling to the golden ideals in books or the majestic sights beyond the frontier. A bloody struggle was clearly on the horizon. Clenching my fists, I made a decision. We're best friends, not bitter rivals, Su Yun immediately declared. Men are like clothes, but sisters are like limbs. Whoever wants to be the damned queen can have the job. There's no time like the present. Locking eyes, we decided to make our escape tonight amidst the lively gathering of all the court officials. Before leaving, I made sure to survey the seating arrangements at the banquet. The position of empress remained vacant, with the imperial consort mother-in-law, whose status was equivalent to deputy empress, sitting closely beside the emperor father-in-law. Her still charming and beautiful face exuded an air of dignified elegance. Her well-maintained vermilion-nailed hand still clutched the dragon robe. and the two appeared utterly sweet together. As I slipped away, I couldn't resist gossiping with Suyun. Our in-laws seem quite affectionate, who knows? This imperial throne might just hold steady for another 30 years. Exactly, decades later, our imperial concubine mother-in-law will rise in status, get rich, and become a widow. Just one son becoming emperor makes her the ultimate winner in life. Who would have thought that the very person we were just envying would appear by the dog hole at the base of the cold palace wall in the blink of an eye? Suyun tugged at my sleeve, whispering through gritted teeth. Didn't you say this place was so deserted only dogs would come? I forced a laugh. Last time when I chased a dog all the way here, there really was no one around. Imperial consort Lin, our mother-in-law, turned around with a start, pointing at the pitch-black, cloudless sky as she let out an awkward chuckle. My dear daughters-in-law, have you also come to admire the moon? As her hand dropped, a cascade of golden and jade trinkets came tumbling out from her sleeves. Upon closer inspection, the eastern pearls from the imperial robe, along with embroidered eyes and 5-clawed golden threads, were all mixed in there. After we exposed her, the imperial consort dowager stopped pretending and simply covered her face, weeping bitterly. I never wanted to be the empress dowager either. In my old age, I'm still trapped alone in the palace counting bricks. My two good sons, one promised to send me out of the palace as a dowager consort, the other vowed to find me a male companion. Now that the two brothers are fighting for the throne, who has time to care about me? A woman's happiness must be planned by herself. Suyun and I quietly took out the soft bundles tied behind our backs, expressing our shared sentiment. 3 heads huddled together as we poured out our grievances, lamenting the hardships of being imperial consorts and daughters-in-law. After whispering for a while, we immediately planned to help each other escape the palace and head straight for Jiangnan. Supporting our imperial mother in embracing her 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 8th, 9th, 10th spring of life, actions speak louder than words. This beautiful and clever trio of mother-in-law and daughters-in-law could surely outshine even Zhuge Liang. After painstakingly clearing the weeds from the dog hole, I volunteered to go first. Unexpectedly, my head got stuck at the entrance. Just as my mother-in-law was pushing my body and Suyun was shoving my rear, a sudden blaze of light erupted around us. Is it dawn already? I was stuck and couldn't move, completely unaware of my surroundings. No, we're screwed. Suyun's half-dead voice made me extremely nervous. A pair of large, veiny hands effortlessly pulled me out. The back of my head collided backward with momentum, hitting what felt like a wall. Warm, firm yet yielding, with undulating contours. I whirled around to find the audacious scoundrel. No, wait, it was my husband, Xiao Yi. He glared at me, his eyes bloodshot with suppressed rage. His pectoral muscles heaving visibly, a strand of my disheveled hair was still tangled in his black and gold embroidered belt. Clutching my head in pain, I groaned loudly while Xiao Yi, breathing heavily, silently worked to untangle my hair. With a sidelong glance, something shocking came into view. The 4th Prince Xiao Ju, who had always been gentle and good-tempered, now had a face as dark as the bottom of a pot, his left hand crushing a fan to pieces. Suyun, trembling like a quail, was tightly gripped by his right hand, though thankfully her bones remained intact. Then, with a sudden start, she realized why was the emperor, her father-in-law, here too. The Empress Dowager, who had just been brazenly boasting about finding 10 male consorts to rotate every 4 days, was now meekly clinging to his side. Truly worthy of an emperor's domineering aura, even dressed in a shabby dragon robe missing 2 eastern pearls and 5 golden threads. His opening words radiated nothing but majesty. My beloved consort, do you find my lifespan too long? Are you so eager to anger me to death that you may seek another? Or have you already planned the next 10 in line? Like father, like son? Xiao Ju's gentle voice now carried a sinister edge as he asked, if Ayun dislikes my recent painting style, why didn't you say so earlier? I've newly brewed a pot of wine but haven't had the chance to invite you for a taste. Xiao Yi whispered persistently in my ear, unwilling to be outdone. Xiao Shi complains about my endless energy during the day, so why do you keep urging me to go harder at night? The 3 women, mother-in-law and daughters-in-law, closed their eyes in unison, pretending to be dead. The escape attempt failed. and the three of us were led back separately, dejected, to be disciplined. Why did you want to leave me? Xiao Yi had lost his usual passionate fervor toward me. His low voice thick with suppressed anger like phlegm stuck in his throat. I tentatively reached for his hand, its veins bulging, hoping to smooth things over with coquetry. He reflexively gripped my hand before pulling away, then stood up with a snort to glare at me. His tall, burly frame was genuinely intimidating. Stop pretending. Answer me honestly. How about you swallow that drool before trying to play the big cat acting as a tiger? I tiptoed onto his shoulders with boneless grace, tightening my breath like orchid-scented whispers while pouting pitifully. Husband, are you interrogating a prisoner or drilling soldiers here? The rough panting in my ears grew more pronounced. When dealing with a man like Xiao Yi, wolfish, tigerish, and brimming with vigor, I've long since gained my share of experience. She leaned close to his earlobe and whispered a complaint. It's all because you haven't been training the troops these past few days, you've been training only me. How could I possibly endure it? My good sister Su Yun keeps boasting about how considerate and gentle the fourth prince is, making you seem like a brute in comparison. Every time she eggs me on, I just want to escape somewhere peaceful to recuperate for a few days. Only then can I coexist harmoniously with you again. Xiao Yi caught my hand, which had been mischievously tracing circles around his Adam's apple, then hoisted me up and laid me down amidst the layers of crimson bed curtains. He leaned in with a mocking laugh, his bulging muscles taut with competitive fervor. Fourth Imperial brother may appear jade-like on the surface but hides blackened depths, full of torturous methods. Little princess consort, I dare say you'd prefer my straightforward and honorable approach. For 5 consecutive days, I couldn't step out of the palace to meet Su Yun. Instead of exhausting that reckless, straightforward bastard Xiao Yi, it left me listlessly lying in bed, losing track of day and night. When he left the mansion to train his troops, I finally had a moment to reflect on Xiao Yi's words. Was he calling the refined and noble fourth prince a dark-hearted schemer? Well, I always suspected these two brothers had a hidden feud. They must have been eyeing each other with disdain for ages. Who knows how perilous their fight for the throne will be in the future? A life-and-death struggle between brothers would inevitably drag me and Su Yun into it, threatening the deep sisterly bond we've shared across 2 lifetimes. At this thought, I felt my broken waist could still muster the strength to fight on. Help me up, I'm going to the palace, Your Highness. The prince said you should rest well. If you're bored, just wait until he returns at dusk to entertain you. Entertain me? I sneered. If I don't run soon, I'll be smothered to death by Xiao Yi's pectoral muscles. Send a message to the fourth princess consort. I'm going to the palace to see Her Highness the Imperial Consort. I met Su Yun, who was holding her waist and trembling on her legs. At the entrance of the noble consort dowager's palace, she pointed at me with a shaky hand. You too? I waved my hand, unwilling to dwell on it. Just a minor thing. We entered the hall to pay respects to the dowager, and the palace attendants served tea and snacks while we waited. Her Majesty has been unwell lately and just rose at noon. May the 2 princess consorts please wait a moment. Su Yun and I exchanged glances, silently marveling at the Xiao family men's propensity for holding grudges over the smallest matters. The imperial concubine mother-in-law came trotting toward us with her hair full of jeweled ornaments, her radiant and charming appearance belying the fact that she was mother to 2 grown imperial princes. Behind her, palace maids followed anxiously, reminding her, His Majesty instructed Your Majesty to be careful in daily activities and avoid any falls or collisions. The mother-in-law dismissed all the attendants. The clever and resourceful trio of mother-in-law and daughters-in-law finally met successfully, 3 pairs of hands clasped together excitedly, tightly connecting their 3 hearts as one. The imperial concubine mother-in-law curiously asked how we had managed to placate the man who had been furious that day. Su Yun first glanced at me guiltily, then stammered out a confession. Little Stream keeps going on about how brilliant and heroic her husband is, always bringing her novel trinkets to amuse her, making him seem like he only knows how to paint and recite poetry on paper, all flash and no substance. That's why I wanted to sneak out to find something fresh. Later, he dragged me into all sorts of new pastimes every day: flower arranging, playing the zither, reading storybooks, listening to the rain, playing chess, burning incense until he'd thoroughly exhausted me before finally stopping. One look at this woman's flushed face made it clear these so-called novel pastimes were anything but proper. Soo-yoon and I truly are kindred spirits even when pinning the blame on each other. We do it with such perfect synchrony. She then turned her gaze to her mother-in-law, the noble consort, whose beautiful eyes flashed with an imposing air. I've been a noble consort for over 20 years. How could your father possibly control me? All he can do is flap his lips, at most. He threatens not to share a burial plot with me after death. One retort about wishing him an early demise to spare him the worry, and he shuts right up. Now that's what I call domineering. Soo-yoon and I immediately wanted to learn her husband taming techniques. Who would have thought the palace maid would hurriedly bring a bowl of medicine? Your Highness, His Majesty said you've been drained of energy these past few days and must take the tonic on time. The room fell silent. The imperial consort quickly changed the subject and asked me, "What did you say earlier about how Xiao Yi scolded his fourth brother? How did it go again?" I put on the air of the woman who understood Xiao Yi best in the world and answered confidently, warm on the surface but cruel at heart, full of schemes, a hypocrite through and through. Soo-yoon's covered her chest in shock and exclaimed, "So it was like this. Worried that my husband's bold remarks might affect the sisterly bond between us, I preemptively defended myself. It was Xiao Yi who cursed alone. Though husband and wife are one, if you curse him, you can't curse me too." Got it. Soo-yoon shook her head and murmured, "Such precise scolding indeed." The imperial concubine mother-in-law choked back her words of comfort and instead asked her, "And how did that ruthless brat Xiao Ju scold his fifth brother?" Soo-yoon glanced at me sheepishly. All brawn, no charm, stubborn as an ox, with nerves straight to the bowels and recklessness clogging the cerebellum. I couldn't help but clap and cheer. Brother-in-law truly lives up to being a scholar. Such magnificent insults. This describes none other than the reckless and impulsive Xiao Yi himself. One's wicked, the other's stupid. These brothers are really slinging mud at each other. Granny gnashed her teeth in frustration at their wasted potential. Soo-yoon and I clung to each other. Broken, in unison, we're doomed. Their mutual disdain was so evident, wouldn't they fight to the death for the throne? Soo-yoon and I could never be sweet sisters-in-law. We could only escape the vortex of power and remain carefree sisters. Our dignified mother-in-law snapped out of her daze and joined our tearful embrace. Finished. This queen truly doesn't want to become the Empress Dowager. Wiping her tears, she lamented, "When you just entered the hall, did you notice the handsome and valiant guards at my door have all been replaced by old geezers more decrepit than your late father? Even the little eunuchs serving inside have all been swapped out for palace maids. Your father now guards against me as if I were some flower-snatching bandit. How utterly chilling." Soo-yoon and I exchanged silent glances, not daring to remind her who it was that brazenly declared by the dog hole that night that even 10 male consorts wouldn't be enough for her amusement. The imperial concubine mother-in-law fumed again. Even raising 2 sons has been for naught, both heartless ingrates. For the sake of that damned throne, they put on gentlemanly airs daily, pretending to be harmonious brothers. Neither has inherited half of my untainted spirit, that lotus rising from mud, when I famously declared I'd never be empress to avoid such shackles. Enough, let them fight over it. They'll come to their senses soon enough, yawning through court audiences every morning like it's some form of torture, if you too are determined to escape. Remember our solemn vow before the dog hole. You must take me with you. If nothing else, the funds I've skimmed from your father Emperor's private treasury over the years would keep us in fine style with many male companions. This is evident from how she remained true to her original intent by removing the pearls and gold threads from the Emperor's dragon robe. There is no doubt about it. With the lessons from their previous failure and ample supplies secured, the 3 heads confidently huddled together to devise their next Zhuge Liang-esque escape plan. Before long, Soo-yoon and I received a message from the imperial consort mother-in-law in the palace. Next month, the emperor would be taking his 2 remaining sons on an incognito tour of the southern regions to observe the people's conditions, with the imperial consort accompanying them. Our top-ranked imperial mother-in-law from the Forbidden City had strenuously secured permission for family members to accompany us. What perfect timing! How our mother-in-law managed this feat remains unknown, but convincing His Imperial Majesty to allow 3 potentially runaway suspects like us to follow the entourage south of the Yangtze must have required tremendous effort. Touched by this gesture, I began packing my belongings with whirlwind enthusiasm on the day of departure. Just as Xiao Yi reached to guide me into the carriage, I slipped like a fish through his grasp and directed servants to load the luggage instead. Put those on the second carriage, and all these go last, be careful not to bump them. A chilling breeze crept up the back of my neck. Turning around, I saw Xiao Yi standing frozen in the posture I'd shaken off, his face icy. Is the princess consort planning to relocate the entire household, heading south to keep male companions? I scurried over to wrap my arms around his solid forearm, then scratched soothing circles in his palm as I coaxed, "My dear husband, most of the luggage inside is prepared for you. Your throat gets dry in autumn, so I've packed your usual tea and throat-soothing medicine, and to keep you from boredom, I've also included the swords, spears, and axes you usually play with." Xiao Yi was moved by my thoughtfulness, his voice softening considerably, yet he persisted in asking, "What about the carriage behind?" "Oh dear, those are just us women's little necessities. When traveling far, one must be prepared for everything. Don't make too much of a show when going out on patrol. Remove all these unnecessary things, just keep the daily essentials. We can replenish whatever we lack along the way." With a wave of his hand, Xiao Yi dismissed all my careful preparations of the past few days. To make matters worse, he considerately lifted me into the carriage, pulled me into his arms, and whispered close to my ear, with Xiaoxi accompanying me the whole way, "What other entertainment could I possibly need? Why are your eyes red? There's no need to be so moved." I turned and buried my face into his broad chest, silently wailing. All my escape supplies were gone. In the midst of my heartbroken sobbing, I reached in and grabbed a handful of his firm muscles to ease my bitter tears. A muffled groan came from above as my wicked hand was caught and stroked. "My consort. Is this how you amuse yourself?" I quickly sat up straight and proper, shooting him a glare. "I still need to meet up with the main group. This person is so unreliable." When we reached the city gates, I finally spotted my dear friend Suyun in the carriage across the way. I lifted the curtain and waved to her from afar. "Ayun, I'm so unlucky, all my belongings are gone." Little she didn't look too happy either. The sisters longed to get off the carriage immediately, embrace each other in tears, and pour out their hearts. Before we could take a step out, we were both simultaneously restrained by a pair of large hands. Xiao Yi, this younger brother, never holds back when it comes to delivering harsh words. "Imperial brother, you should refrain from encouraging the Empress to whisper unsavory nonsense in front of my consort. Since when did I not know you had such a gentle and amiable side? If that's truly the case, why not extend this kindness further and let it benefit all the people?" Xiao Ju, too, is no less skilled at lacing his words with hidden barbs when dealing with his younger brother. "Imperial brother, you should also stop letting fifth brother's wife fill my lady's ears with foolish talk. Your valiant and heroic nature is known to all. Why force the Empress to like you? If you channeled such efforts into righteous causes, quelling unrest and benefiting the realm, surely the elder ministers would rally behind you with full support." Amidst 2 cold snorts, the carriage curtains were simultaneously drawn shut, blocking the view from the opposite side. Today, the 2 brothers didn't even bother pretending, openly quarreling in the street. It's clear they've grown utterly weary of each other, and with their ambitions for the throne, there's likely no chance of reconciliation left. My sigh was too audible, and Xiao Yi gently squeezed my hand to comfort me. "My lady, there's no need to worry. Your close friendship with the Crown Princess is a good thing. However, the court's clamor about establishing the Crown Prince has grown too loud recently. My elder brother and I hold differing views on this matter, so a few arguments are inevitable, but it won't affect the bond between you 2 sisters-in-law. It's you 2 being at each other's throats that's ruining our sisterly bond." You know, seeing his true attitude clearly, I finally resolved to abandon Xiao Yi's warm embrace and make a run for it with Su Yun. The inspection team disguised themselves as a merchant caravan and headed south. Su-yoon and I had been unable to meet due to the brothers' tense standoff, until the imperial concubine summoned us under the pretense of wanting to chat with her daughters-in-law, allowing the three of us to finally reunite. Su-yoon burst into tears the moment she saw me. That heartless Xiao Ju has taken away all my savings. Your brother-in-law was right, he's nothing but a wolf in sheep's clothing. From now on, I'll have to rely on your little nest egg to get by. I forced a dry laugh. Actually, oh dear, you're still so young. The royal family's hearts are twisted and cunning. What good could my two sons possibly be? They even stood up their own mother, don't trust them lightly. The imperial concubine mother-in-law proudly displayed her private collection to us, nearly blinding us with the dazzling contents. When she opened the large chest, I picked up a handful of golden threads. Are these the gold embroidery threads from Father Emperor's dragon robe? So many. During our last nighttime escape, we'd only seen a few strands at most. She enthusiastically shared her experience. I said I wanted to mend his dragon robes and everyday garments. Your Father Emperor remarked he'd never seen me so demure and virtuous before. In his delight, he handed me all these to practice embroidery. He even wanted to take off the one he was wearing. I unraveled all the gold threads and had the embroidery bureau replace them with bright yellow silk threads. Su-yoon held a handful of pearls in her hands and earnestly asked, "So these are also..." "Exactly. These are the Eastern pearls from your father's robes. This one was pried from the crown on his head, and this is the thumb ring taken from his hand." What profound life wisdom. Both Su-yoon and I were suddenly enlightened, with a bold mother-in-law by our side. We no longer needed to restrain ourselves after escaping. We could divorce, make a fortune, and even hire handsome young attendants, no longer having to endure the domineering Xiao Yi's temper. With an exit strategy secured, we began discussing how to successfully flee under everyone's noses. Faking our deaths, I carefully laid out the plan I'd been contemplating for days. This journey to Jiangnan coincides with autumn, when many rivers and ponds swell with high tides. The currents are swift and treacherous. Only those fishermen who dwell by the waters and are skilled in salvage possess the experience and dexterity needed. As long as we offer sufficient silver, there will always be daring souls willing to dive into the river for us. Any other means of escape would only have the imperial guards scouring every corner for our trail, pursuing us relentlessly. Only a death feint, and one where our bodies are lost to the raging waves, can ensure our path remains secure. Su-yoon nodded. To place oneself in mortal peril is to find life. It's worth attempting. We turned our gazes toward the noble consort dowager, who responded with eager agreement, her face alight with excitement. I've lived for decades and seen all kinds of storms, but this is truly the first time I'm voluntarily throwing myself into the tempest to seek death. How novel. How extraordinary. I heard the imperial concubine's maternal family was full of military talents. No wonder she was a tiger daughter from a general's household. At over 40, she was just at the age to roll up her sleeves and make her mark. After we huddled together to quietly refine the plan's details, we took our leave. When Su-yoon and I alighted from the carriage, we were startled by the three gate guardian deities standing before mother-in-law's carriage. First, I dutifully paid respects to His Majesty. Father Emperor, have you come to visit Mother Consort? Three women make a theatrical scene. Do you three women, mother-in-law and daughters-in-law, really have so much endless gossip? Fourth and fifth princes, take your wives back to drink some tea and moisten their throats. The Emperor father-in-law, stiffly shaking off his robes, strode into Mother Consort's carriage, perhaps having learned the truth about the garments. The usually majestic-faced emperor wore plain, everyday clothes whose embroidered patterns somehow made his complexion appear dull and lifeless. He looks rather pitifully poor. Xiao Shi, let's go back and rest. You must be tired from talking. I'll give you a proper acupressure massage to help you relax. Xiao Yi's warm hand firmly led me away, not to be outdone. Xiao Ju spoke in a voice so sweet it could rot teeth. Ayun, I've brewed you some floral tea. Would you like me to read you the newly released storybook? Su-yoon turned and winked at me, and I immediately understood her meaning. I leaned against Xiao Yi's chest, letting him massage me to relax. Suddenly remembering something, I opened my eyes and asked him, "Husband, Do you have any clothes that need mending? I can take care of it for you. He casually twirled a strand of my hair between his fingers and chuckled. What's gotten into you, Xiaoxi? Did my mother teach you something strange again? Despite his words, he still casually tossed something over to me, thinking himself utterly indulgent. Here, find a way to pass the time. Wait, since when is armor considered clothing? I forgot my man is a rough-and-tumble military brute. I stared blankly at the pile of scrap metal in my arms. Was I really supposed to pry off these stone-heavy contraptions so they'd conveniently weigh me down when I fake my death by drowning? For 2 whole months, our inspection party traveled leisurely and quietly until we reached the prosperous Jiangnan region. The moment I stepped off the carriage, I bolted like a wild horse freed from its reins. Before Xiao Yi could grab me, I was already dashing toward the carriages of Su Yun and Xiao Ju. Brimming with excitement, "Ah Yun, come down for a walk. The streets are lined with pearls and jewels, every household filled with silks and satins. Everywhere you wander in Jiangnan offers splendid scenery, except we're trailed by 2 lumbering oafs who spoil the view with their childish bickering. Imperial Brothers' literary talents are astonishing. Why not assist our royal father in governance to share his burdens? Imperial Brothers' military strategies are peerless. Why not devote yourself to guarding our royal father's safety by his side? Where would a younger brother surpass his elder brother? Such an honor should be presented before His Majesty to earn his favor. If it's truly an honor, why doesn't my usually enthusiastic royal brother step forward? What? Afraid His Majesty might burden you with heavy responsibilities? Su Yunxian couldn't bear to listen any longer and dragged Xiao Ju away. I could still hear her scolding incessantly. If you're a real man, just act directly. What's with all this roundabout wordplay? Xiao Ju, I'm not criticizing you, but when I usually praise your exceptional talent, that's just marital banter. First recognize your actual capabilities, will you? I simply ignored Xiao Yi behind me and strode forward quickly, until he pulled me through the crowd of vendors and pinned me against the mouth of a deep alley, putting on a face full of grievance. Does the princess consort look at me the same way the empress looks down on my imperial brother? You know I don't like empty talk, but my brother insists he's too scholarly and only wants to settle things this way. I sighed deeply and asked him seriously, Xiao Yi, must you and your imperial brother always compete? Xiao Yi's eyes held apology, but his resolve remained firm. Father has only us 2 sons left, so the throne must be chosen between us. If it's not him, it will be me. We must determine a winner, so that one of us can accept the outcome wholeheartedly. He held me tenderly, letting me lean on his shoulder, and sincerely promised, Xiaoxi, don't worry, once matters in Jiangnan are settled, upon returning to the capital, I will fulfill your wish and make you the most carefree and happiest woman in the world. Would becoming the empress, standing above all others, truly bring carefree freedom? Why then did the imperial consort stubbornly refuse to become empress? Preserving for decades her untamed nature free from excessive ancestral constraints, to ascend to the pinnacle of power with one's beloved is merely the beginning of distance and resentment. Xiao Yi, even if we love each other now, we are ultimately walking different paths that cannot converge. Xiao Yi and his brother finally began working seriously under their father emperor, busily inspecting rural officials daily, leaving little energy to control us 3 women of the household. At first, we pretended to stroll through the marketplace together every day, while secretly seeking out experienced fishermen who knew the waters well. After agreeing on the time, location, and plan for the staged death and offering them generous compensation, we quietly waited for the day to arrive. On the 15th day of the Mid-Autumn Festival, the whole family gathered together, pouring wine, chatting, and laughing without distinctions of ruler and subject or father and son, just like an ordinary household, relaxed and carefree. The 18th day of the 8th month, the best day to watch the tidal bore, the full moon will eventually wane, gradually turning into a lonely waning crescent. On this day, the father and his 2 sons were to handle a case involving a chain of corruption and bribery in official circles. As was their custom, I carefully fastened Xiao Yi's belt, smoothed the wrinkles on his sleeves, and chattered on with reminders. My lord, don't get so caught up in work that you forget to eat again. Have someone carry the brewed tea with you. I've also repaired your armor, remember to wear it for protection when you're out in danger. Xiao Yi pressed against me with infinite tenderness, sealing my lips with his own before lifting me straight up to gaze down at him. My consort has truly warmed my heart today. I've been rather busy lately, have you been feeling lonely? I'll return early to keep you company. He planted a kiss on my forehead, then hurried out with swift, determined strides. Watching his broad figure disappear, I pushed aside my brief melancholy of parting and rushed off to meet Su Yun and my mother-in-law. A good husband is nice, but sisters are closer. With the vast sky and clouds ahead, surrounded by best friends, silver coins, and a sea of handsome muscular men. Plus a motherly sister-in-law, what a wonderful life. Yunshi, hurry up, Su Yun, arm in arm with her imperial concubine mother-in-law, anxiously called out to me. The agreed time is almost up. There were hidden guards following us around. My mother-in-law summoned them urgently with the commanding air of an imperial consort. We're going to watch the tidal bore today. Keep your distance and don't spoil our enjoyment. The river's surging tides roared joyously, drawing quite a crowd. The three of us quickly stepped onto the long embankment along our prearranged route. The guards, left behind in the crowd, were still shouting in vain, "Madam, young madam, don't come any closer." It was too late. The tidal surge came crashing down as Su Yun shouted loudly, "Right here, jump in boldly. They have something to support us. Save your strength and let them pull us ashore." Holding my breath, I leaped into the river first, amidst the rise and fall of the waves. I couldn't tell if it was my imagination. I seemed to hear Xiao Yi's hoarse cries. The three of us, mother-in-law and daughters-in-law, were pulled ashore soaking wet, and by then it was already late morning. The kind-hearted household, especially the woman, had prepared ginger soup and brought us clean clothes to change into. We thanked them profusely, but they awkwardly expressed their gratitude in return, saying we had brought them a path to prosperity and that all their future endeavors would now go smoothly. After bidding farewell to the fishermen, we followed our prearranged route, avoiding the wealthy and bustling river cities. After a simple disguise, we boarded a boat straight to Huzhou. On the boat, I remarked casually, "I don't know if it was just my imagination, but when I jumped into the river, I thought I heard Xiao Yi's voice." My mother-in-law kindly reminded me with a concerned expression, "It's true, when I finally jumped and looked back, your father and Xiao Ju." Xiao Yi pushed aside the guards and rushed over like madmen, their feet practically sparking from how fast they ran. Su Yun was horrified. "Then will they find us?" Hearing Xiao Yi's name again still brought a dull ache to my heart, but I replied nonchalantly, "Countless have drowned in these raging river currents, even if there were bodies. The current is too strong to retrieve them. Seeing us die before their eyes might actually make them give up more easily." The mother-in-law said cheerfully, "Ladies, don't fret, look at these lantern-lit streets bright as day outside. Our good times have arrived." The old woman spoke truly. Though we lost 3 men, we've gained a whole crowd of handsome beauties like clouds. We've nearly seen all the young male entertainers at Huzhou's southern-style houses, spending our days wandering among silk and bamboo melodies, drinking freely to the music. What blissful freedom! The 3 of us have practically become Huzhou's famous wealthy widows. The managers of any southern-style house beam with joy the moment they spot us approaching. "Back again, ladies. We've got some fresh top-tier selections today. The muscular type Mistress Yun fancies, the scholarly gentleman Mistress Su prefers, and several categories that'll surely please Mistress Lin." Surrounded by all manner of handsome men, Su Yun was thoroughly drunk and barely coherent. She vaguely pointed at the towering, muscular Adonis before me and slurred, "Why do I feel all these men's talents are just hot air? Can't even manage a proper poetry duel, let alone gamble over guessing characters from book pages while drinking with me. In the end, none of them compare to Xiao Ju." With that, she collapsed drunkenly onto the table. The mother-in-law took the wine pot and continued drinking, not forgetting to chime in, "Exactly, I've grown tired of seeing all these lately. They're not even as fresh-faced as the guards from my old palace and mansion days, let alone half as handsome with that stern charm as your father-in-law. Truth be told, having wandered through countless blades of grass, I still haven't found anyone as robust, spirited, and clingy with passion as Xiao Yi." Who would have thought Su Yun and my mother-in-law would feel the same way? Could it be their longing to return? My mother-in-law downed another cup of wine with gusto and immediately made a decision. We've had enough of Huzhou. Tomorrow we pack for Yangju. I hear the young gentlemen there are exceptionally handsome and fresh-faced. Splendid idea. Su Yun sprang up like a reanimated corpse to chime in before flopping back down. Only I, who had little interest in drinking and only had a few cups, felt that something was amiss. The next moment, the compartment door was violently kicked open. Why does that silhouette look so much like Xiao Yi? I shook my head, trying to determine if I was drunk or not, when suddenly my chin was gripped and lifted. Xiao Yi's barely contained fury spilled out through his voice. My little princess consort, you've truly made your husband search far and wide for you. Until the moment I was hoisted onto his shoulder in one swift motion, my dazed mind could only grasp one thought. How long it's been since I last encountered this familiar scent and these broad shoulders tapering to a narrow waist. From the corner of my eye, I saw Su Yun's husband flick his fan with a single motion, sending the delicate young courtesan who had been sitting close to her tumbling to the ground, his voice colder than I'd ever heard before. Su Yun, you've truly outdone yourself this time. Looking again at my mother-in-law, oh dear, the emperor himself had come to arrest her in person, grabbing her just as she tried to crawl under the table. My beloved consort, how delightful it must be to raise a lover with my jewels and silver. Well then, the beautiful and clever trio of mother-in-law and daughters-in-law proved no match for a single fool. None escaped being hauled back to the capital. This time, Xiao Yi wasn't so easily appeased. He dismissed all the servants, confining me day and night in the room. He personally dressed me and fed me, while my limbs bore ambiguous marks from his belt, leaving me unable to break free. Yunshi, you're truly disobedient. Xiao Yi, his eyes bloodshot, pinned me down, each word piercing my heart. Back in Jiangnan, I gave you a chance. On the day of the tide, I watched you jump into the river without hesitation, and it still fills me with hatred. Am I truly so unworthy of your remembrance? Or was all your previous care and tenderness just an act? Were you always planning to leave me from the very beginning? You even placed the empress and my mother before me. By the end, Xiao Yi rested his head on my shoulder and fell silent for a long time. Only belatedly did I realize my robe was soaked through with tears. When he finally looked up, all I could see were the bloodshot veins in his eyes as he gripped me with a stubborn, unyielding intensity and demanded, if you could do it all over again, knowing you clearly heard my cries that day, would you still jump without looking back? After being confined for many days, the unrestrained drinking and singing from days past now seemed like a lifetime ago, making me nearly forget that I wasn't originally from ancient times. If this weren't time travel, why would Su Yun and I be so imprisoned by their ideologies that we can't be free? So I retorted defiantly, if we were to return to that southern alley again, would you—
Who could have imagined that the emperor, who usually appeared cold, taciturn, and deeply imposing, would scold his sons non-stop like this? Truly, he and the imperial consort share the same marital temperament. After scolding his son, the daughter-in-law couldn't escape either. The emperor was so furious his fingers trembled uncontrollably. Fourth son's wife appears cultured and virtuous, gentle and kind, yet every time there's trouble, you're right in the middle of it stirring the pot. Xiao Ju silently pulled Su Yun into his embrace, then the trembling finger pointed at me. After taking 2 or 3 deep breaths to compose himself, he finally erupted in rage. Fifth sister-in-law has truly outdone herself this time, with such intricate schemes and clever maneuvers. This whole plot must have been masterminded by you, wasn't it? Xiao Yi pulled me behind him and retorted shamelessly. The blame lies with this unworthy son for filling the princess's head with military stratagems, while the younger generation is at fault. Has father not also indulged mother's whims? I heard all their expenses were drawn from father's private treasury by mother, without your tacit approval. How could things have reached the point where even proper dragon robes for court appearances became scarce? Xiao Ju added calmly, driving the knife deeper. The imperial concubine mother-in-law had already shrunk her head like a quail, while the emperor father strode forward to stand before her, blocking our view. Utterly outrageous. Scram, all of you, get out of my sight. As we exited the Golden Hall, we could still hear the emperor father coaxing the imperial concubine with tender care. My beloved, since both these sons are useless, Why don't we try for another while we still have the vigor? According to you, wouldn't I still become the Empress Dowager 100 years later? Get out of my sight too. Wait, if you want to go out for fun, I'll accompany you. I'll summon those 2 rebellious sons back right away to take turns ruling the empire for us. Xiao Yi pulled me along, while Xiao Ju held on to Su Yun, their footsteps growing more urgent. Judging by His Majesty's impressive performance in the throne hall that day, his energy should last him another 20 years. Who knows, in 20 years there might be a younger brother born with the sacred dragon physique, both cultured and martial, to take up the burden these 2 lazy brothers are eager to shirk. Xiao Yi and Xiao Ju finally shook hands and made peace, continuing their leisurely lives together. Su Yun and I could also rekindle our sweet sister-in-law bond. In our free time, we'd visit the imperial palace to chat with the noble consort mother-in-law, gossiping about the daily antics of the Xiao father and sons. For instance, Xiao Yi would always pester me, asking if I would leave him again. Curious, I asked him how someone as stubborn as an ox could have recognized me at first glance. Sticking to me like a dog to a meat bun, was I truly so stunningly beautiful that he couldn't control himself? He suddenly laughed. I recalled how the noble ladies of the capital used to favor the frail, ethereal figure of the former sickly crown prince. She truly couldn't stand this kind of blood-stained military brute, this brawny oaf. When the marriage was arranged, she only wished for a relationship of mutual respect with her prince consort. Yet who would have thought that on their wedding night? Her eyes would gleam as she ran her hands over his arms and shoulders, asking how he'd developed such a fine physique. The way she slowly undressed him while secretly drooling was utterly charming and delightful. His heart leaped with joy, and that very night he couldn't restrain his overwhelming passion. Scratching the back of his head, he said I already knew what happened afterward. Ah. Indeed, forget about treating each other with formal respect. We've become so familiar that we skip the pleasantries and dive straight into deep, intimate exchanges, turning over every thought between us. Take, for example, Su Yun's remark that Xiao Ju seemed to have lost his mind, covering the walls with portraits of her and writing stacks of romantic novels based on their story, then inviting her to critique them day after day. Su Yun couldn't fathom why Xiao Ju had become so utterly devoted to her. Xiao Ju said the noble ladies of the capital scorned him for spending his days admiring flowers and painting, seeing him as either an idle scholar or a dashing playboy, far less appealing than the ambitious, career-driven second and third princes. They never expected to spend their entire wedding night chatting about moonlit blossoms and azure clouds, nearly missing the auspicious hour. Xiao Ju was certain no other woman in his life would understand him as profoundly as Su Yun did. To this, the imperial concubine mother-in-law sharply remarked while munching on melon seeds, "You two are truly a lid to each other's pot. Just make do and live happily together." Thus, from then on, Xiao Yi and Xiao Ju chased after Su Yun and me, and the 4 of us joyfully roamed everywhere, indulging in carefree adventures. Along the way, we established martial arts arenas and academies across the borders of the kingdom, experiencing an extraordinarily thrilling journey. Only occasionally would urgent letters arrive from the distant capital. "Return at once. Let us and your mother take your place on this incognito tour," we replied. Father Emperor and Mother Empress need not be overly anxious about the unborn imperial brother. Along our journey, we have established martial arts arenas and academies. Nurturing many individuals accomplished in both literary and martial arts, the empire will naturally have worthy successors. The vermilion brushstrokes pierced through the paper with forceful intensity. "Scram, all of you, get the hell away from me.